to this battle, and probably it is really disheartening to see, rest in peace messages in the group. So all of us, please observe 1 minute of silence in
So
memory of our brothers.
we mute our systems for 1 minute.
See, I'll do one thing. I'm muting all, and then the first speaker itself for the session, he will mute all. Let's observe the 1 minute silence then.
I think we'll resume now.
Okay. So shall I start? Dipanjan, you are not audible.
So I think 1 minute is over. So we'll resume now. Prayers for all the departed souls and whoever has lost their battle and near and dear ones to the COVID-19 pandemic. And I sincerely hope that in the coming days, probably the situation will improve. With this, I request Dr. Shubhranshu Shekhar. He is 1 year senior to me. He's passed his class 12 from Vidyapit in the year 2002. And he'll be talking about management of COVID-19 in pediatric age group. As there is a fear in the coming days that COVID-19, especially in the third wave, might affect the children as well. And we are seeing that in the second wave also, more number of children are being infected than the first wave. So what to do when any child in your home gets infected, and the practical aspect will be covered by Shubhranshu, and the questions will be taking up in the panel discussion. So any of you who are having question, please put it in the chat box. Over to you, Shubhranshu.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure meeting you all on a virtual platform. So this is first of its kind. I am doing this for all Praktani students. Okay. One more thing before I start. Actually, I'm on call today. I would, though I have made arrangements so that I am not disturbed. But if there some emergency arises, please excuse me for some time. I'll be back again. Okay. And one more thing, Rahul Shubham, kindly please आप स्लाइड शेयर कर सकते हैं क्या?
Yes,
Rahul?
sure. I'll share it.
Yeah.
I'll ask all the audience who are joining now, please mute yourself and let only the speakers speak. Okay. I will request also the co-host to take note of this. Whoever in the speaker list, keep checking and mute the newcomers for the time being. I'm sharing the screen for Shubhranshu, Dr. Shubhranshu.
Yeah, sure.
Let me know if my screen is visible.
Yeah, I am visible. You are visible.
Yeah.
You are visible.
Okay.
Yeah. I am able to see my slides. Yeah. So, next slide, please. So this time we are more and more worried about children because these waves have turned into a tsunami this time. So this was a little less expected. We knew that the waves would take children as well, but we didn't expect it as much. And what Dr. Dipanjan was talking, in the third wave, we are planning to see, or we are expecting to see more of such cases. And since treatments are not very much available as of now for children, so I'll try to cut short my discussion as possible, as short as possible, and try to fix the points. Next, please. So to give a perspective, we have seen around 1,300 million children have missed their school as on April 30. So this is a global burden, a global impact of this. This is one of those many things that children are missing, or children are being deprived of. So apart from being in a social pressure, social peer group, so they are missing those things. They are missing their education and online classes. Apart from this COVID pandemic. Next, please. Next, please. Acha. So we were trying to find out the reason about this, why there are increased infection in the second wave. What we could guess that this is a changed virus or mutated virus, which has a high infectivity. It is very infectious, very contagious. Therefore, a large number of population gets affected. Even we have seen, if one person in the family is positive, everyone is positive. So that's the infectivity of the virus. And the second important point is that people had a casual approach after the first wave passed off. So we should have taken lessons from previous pandemics that second waves do occur, and that has happened this time also. So we failed to learn from the history. So COVID appropriate behavior was missing from most of the people. So that led to these things. And one more thing, that children are very good copiers. They copy their adults very well. So if an adult is not following any protocol, children should not be held responsible for that. So casual approach in adults has led to this spreading of this infection, and children, they secondarily got infected. I was going through the data. US data shows that around 11.5%, since from January 1 to April 21, around 8.7% among children are affected in US. So that is the data of American Academy of Pediatrics. But as far as India is concerned, ICMR had released a guideline last month that says the second wave has seen 5.8% of infectivity in COVID-19 children. So previously, COVID-19 children, it was 4.2%. So there seems to be a marginal rise. So, but what we are looking at is only probably the tip of the iceberg, those who have been tested. Though a large chunk remains untested, unidentified, asymptomatic. So we need to take care of that as well. Okay. And those children who are at risk, they are children less than 2 years of age, children who have some health disparities such as long-standing lung disease, long-standing heart disease, long-standing kidney disease, or children who were born premature, or children who are very obese. So they are more at risk. Next slide, please. So the symptoms most of us we know, but the common symptoms are high fever, sore throat, pain in neck, cough, at times dry cough, blocked nose. We have also seen symptoms of acute gastroenteritis, that is loose motions, vomiting, abdominal pain, etc. But in this way, what we have seen distinctly, that these symptoms are persisting for a longer period of time. Previously, it used to be 2, 3, 4 days, but we have seen 6, 7 days of fever, 6, 7 days of sore throat and body aches, etc. Less commonly and varying symptoms are rashes, conjunctivitis, means red eyes, peripheries if they become cold to touch, and if there is edema, we say it medically, swelling of limbs. So if they are seen very less in numbers, but if noted or noticed, it must be reported to the pediatrician locally. Next slide, please. As modes of transmission, primarily it is airborne transmission, which is either aerosol or droplet infection. Droplet infection is usually larger in size, they settle down to the ground, but aerosol are smaller particles, they float for a very varied period of time. And recently they have concluded that it is very less obvious from the fomites, that door handles, etc. It is very less common to have transmission from those sources. Children are not usually the index case. By index case, I mean to say the first case in the family. The first case in the family is usually not the children. Usually he or she contracts from any adult, maybe a caregiver, maybe a household help, maybe a grandparent, maybe their parent, but usually they are not the index case. But once they get infected, they are considered super spreaders, because they have they obviously, because of their nature, they are very easy to go and very careless about their everything. So they mix with everyone, and they might be harboring infection, and so they spread it very well. So in this context, we have already we usually counsel every parent that please keep them away from grandparents. Grandparents, they are mostly 60 plus or 80 plus or whatever age, but they have some chronic illnesses, some long-standing illnesses, hypertension, blood pressure, etc. So if they contract disease by any chance, it may prove lethal to them. So we should be keeping them away from grandparents. Next slide, please. This is just a pictorial depiction. I got it from a net. So various modes of transmission. Fomites is less chances from fomites. Yes, more chances from droplets and aerosols. So they have shown a very good diagram how to protect it from those. So mask is a mandatory thing. Mask, yeah, eye protection you might wear, and social distancing, well ventilated room, etc. Hand washing, hand sanitization. Hand washing is better than hand sanitization. Sanitization is second best option. Okay, next slide, please. Test which and when. So now the question arises whether somebody is harboring an active disease or an old disease, the disease which has healed itself maybe by some supportive measures or by its own. So if one is worried whether he or she is having this illness now, the only method to know is by testing. So mostly we do only two kinds of tests. One is RT-PCR, which is reverse transcriptase polymerase chain reaction. So this is done whenever the child is
Shubhranshu, you are not audible.
We have lost the audio.
Hope Shubhranshu is facing some, network problem.
For our time, but 7 days. It takes 4 to 7 days.
Shubhranshu, একটু repeat করে দাও. একটু repeat করে দাও. মাঝখানে you are not audible.
Shubhranshu, you are not audible for around a minute or so. You can just repeat it.
Okay. So tests. So regarding tests, we want to know whether we are actively infected or some lesion had occurred, some infection had occurred and has healed itself. So for this episode, there are primarily two kinds of tests: RT-PCR and PCR-NAT, NAAT. So both tests can be done. The pros and cons I have just listed. Whenever symptomatic, when the child is symptomatic or when his child is considered has been in exposure with a person tested positive, then he or she needs to be done this test. RT-PCR, either symptomatic, or if the child has no symptoms, then maybe by day 5 or day 7 of exposure. Okay, the results are usually available by 24 hours of time, but it is variable in periphery. It may take up to 4 days or maybe longer. This is a specific test, and once it means if it is tested positive, we for all practical consideration we take that person to be positive. And there has been some confusion related CT value. So CT value indicates viral load. Value indicates infectivity. So this is for a simple thing. This is inversely proportional to infectivity. Means one who has low CT value is more infectious. And CT value should not be confused with severity. We consider CT value of 32 or less to be of more infectivity in nature. Okay. The other option is PCR NAT, which is rapid antigen test. Results are available by 2 to 4 hours, and it is less specific. In the sense, a negative test may not be a negative, which means a person who is harboring infection may be tested negative by this method, which will be a false negative thing. But a positive is always considered positive. In case symptoms are there, but a child has been tested negative by this method, we need to do an RT-PCR. Next slide, please. And there is a timeline of investigation. Was I sick in the past? So go for antibody test, or am I sick now? So RT-PCR test or antigen test. So the antibody test is just for a value that whether you were infected previously or not, but it doesn't offer much help, because the values are not very supportive, that whether this person is going to have another infection or not. It's not very specific. Okay, next slide, please. So common scenarios. So what we see day to day, these are common scenarios, that mother is positive and child is positive. So if mother is not sick enough to care for herself, she should stay together. So though they both should be isolated in one room, they should be staying together, preferably with an attached toilet, and food should be supplied as and when needed, and they should have their own utensils, etc. And they should monitoring, etc. That should be done time to time, and they should stay together if mother is not sick enough. If mother is positive and child is negative, then also mother can take care of the child if there is no better option available. If options are available that anyone else can take care of the baby or the child, then welcome. Otherwise, mother has to take care. We have seen a few situations where parents are negative, but the child is positive. So in that situation, parents may be allowed to handle the child, but with a proper PPE or at least a mask. But hand sanitization, social distancing, etc. is necessary, because it's very difficult for a child to separate from their parents. But in any case, we enforce, or we strictly say that please avoid leaving them with grandparents. And in case that child needs to visit grandparent or go to grandparents, then the child should be tested negative before sending them to grandparents. And as of now, what recently we have seen, that even lactating mothers can stay with their babies. Even the mother is positive, then also mothers may be allowed to stay with babies. Probably, but the mask has to be kept in place, and hand hygiene should be kept intact. Okay, next slide, please. So prevention. So as of now, there are no proven medications known yet in children, at least. And so by prevention, we have to what IAP, Indian Academy of Pediatrics, suggests, that mask for aged 2 years or above. WHO suggests masks for 6 years or above, or any cloth or fabric mask will do. Special kits, as we already mentioned, child having some chronic lung disease, long-standing heart disease, kidney disease, or some obesity, they are more at risk. So they have to be kept. We have to be more cautious regarding them. hand hygiene, hand sanitization should be always emphasized. Regarding hand hygiene, what we do is what we advise is 20 seconds of hand rubbing at least. So for children, that ABC song or a happy birthday song, that usually takes 20 minutes. Or at times we encourage them that if you do a hand washing, we'll give you a smiley or star or some reward. So that helps, we have seen. Social distancing, we all know, avoid social gatherings. Uh, this is also important. Okay. I have underlined one point, COVID-19 appropriate behavior by elders. So we have seen quite often elders not following these protocols. Therefore, children also land up in trouble. They themselves land up in trouble, or maybe carriers, and then eventually children. Okay. So we must abide by this. And if the child needs develop some symptoms, fever, etc., cough, sore throat, then in these days online consultations are available. We must go for an online consultation, and if needed, if this child needs to be physically seen, then only he or she should be taken out for a consultation, because the staying indoors is more helpful. And regarding vaccinations, all those vaccinations of all children should be done at appropriate time. Okay, next slide, please. Achha. Okay, so this is a summation of whatever we talked. Wear a mask, social distancing at least 6 feet, and wash your hands quite frequently. Next slide. What can we do at home? So for fever, we give paracetamol. The temperature more than 100 degrees Fahrenheit is considered fever. So 10 to 15 milligram per kilogram per dose. In children, it is usually given according to body weight. So this is the dose, 10 to 15 milligram per kilogram per dose, and as and when needed, but try to keep a minimum gap of 4 to 6 hours. Adequate hydration as per age, as per environment, whatever the amount what baby needs, the child needs to have. Zinc supplementation, vitamin C supplementation, and adequate nutrition, healthy lifestyle, etc. For medications such as azithromycin, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, doxycycline, remdesivir, there has been no scientific evidence, at least in children staying at home. For some children who need to be admitted or who need intensive care, in that cases we have used some steroids or some other medicines as well. But usually scientific evidence are lacking in these medications as mentioned. Next slide, please. Now, this has been a concern in the recent times. This mental health, that children do suffer from mental illnesses. So this is a study that I have taken that says anxiety disorders are up by 94%, depressive disorders up by more than 84%, and self-harm nearly 100%. So we need to keep a watch that apart from their physical well-being, their mental well-being is also important. So there are a few, I have tried to address how to address those mental illness, mental health related problems. Next slide, please. So we have to be patient, we have to be supportive and give more attention what they want to say, what they need to be told, etc. And they have heard something or the other. What is this COVID? What is this 19? What is something? They have heard something somewhere else. It's not wise to hide this fact. It's not. So we should be supportive. We should be taking them into confidence and tell them that this is the thing. So this is. So therefore, you must stay indoors. You must go out only when it's an urgent, it's an emergency need. Otherwise, please stay indoors. And a time might come that you may have to wear mask at home. So these kinds of lessons we have to educate them at home. And we need to, since there has been a change in working pattern. So now many of the people are working from home, so they need to take out time to spend with their kids. They need to teach coping skills to their kids, and frequent hand hygiene. They need to, since they are at home, they need to keep a regular timetable, as regular as possible. So being a RKM student, I know many of us would be disciplined as of now. So inculcate those values in them and keep the family connected and teach them family values, etc. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Acha. So age appropriate play. So whatever the age, accordingly, we might decide what to be done or not to be done. So in our school times, we must have done all these singing, dance, painting, reading books, gardening. So we can give an exposure of everything what we have learned. So while I was making the slides, I got reminded of vocational training exposure. I don't know these days whether in RKM it happens or not, but we used to enjoy those periods, that plumbing and carpentry, etc. So or pottery. These children will be liking that. They like that, and these can be a method of addressing those mental problems. And please, less use of electronic media. And what the WHO suggests, that it should be as less as possible, at least 0 hours in less than 2 years of age. But during these lockdown times, at times it becomes practically difficult. So let them learn whatever. But I would also like to emphasize, it should be less of electronic media and bonding over family. Next slide, please. The need of the hour. Vaccines. So finally there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We have started vaccinating everyone, and 18 plus are getting vaccinated. Now Canada has authorized a Pfizer's vaccine, which is authorized in 12 to 15 years of age. Oxford vaccine is being tested in 5 to 12 years of age, and another vaccine developer has started vaccinating above 6 months of age. So let's hope for the best, because no one is safe until everyone is safe. Next slide, please. So we come to end of this my lecture. So need of the hour is social distancing. Wash your hands frequently and regularly. Wear a mask. It is required. Next slide, please. Take home messages. So reinforce protective behavior. Whatever we were talking about, this mask, social distancing, and hand sanitization or hand washing preferably. Supportive care, that is paracetamol, zinc, vitamin C, healthy foods, exercises. The good fact about this is majority of children are asymptomatic or mild cases. They get better on their own with only supportive medication. Only maybe 10% or maybe much less who suffer from severe illnesses. For them, hospitalization is needed. Teleconsultation for minor illnesses, for any fever, etc. We should not take out children to the doctor. We can take an online appointment and consultation. Danger signs. If the fever is prolonged, maybe 3 to 4 days of fever, high fever, or there is reduced activity by if the child who was playful otherwise has not been playing, is otherwise afebrile, he has no fever but he is not playing, that we are worried about. He has developed some breathing difficulty, he is breathing fast, so or he is making some noise while breathing, so that we are concerned. If the oxygen saturation is less than 93%, then we are worried. And if the child is taking less amounts of feed and is not playful, appears sick, we are worried. And so these are the danger signs, need to be watched, and regular immunization can go as needed. Next message. So we come to the discussion. We come to the end of my topic. So it's a coronavirus, which is to win the fight against COVID-19. So it is on us. Okay. Thank you for your patient listening.
Thank you, Shubhanshu.
Thank you so much, Shubhanshu.
That was wonderful. So I think without any further delay, we move on to the next talk, and I am sure there must be many questions, so we can definitely address the questions at the end of the talk. So the next talk is by our very respected and senior alumni member, Vishwajit Da. Vishwajit Da is a senior consultant pathologist in Delhi, and his talk is actually on home care of COVID-19 patients, do's and don'ts. So this, I hope, will be extremely useful to all of us in the present day scenario. So whenever we get a COVID-19 positive report, the first reaction that all of us get panicked. So definitely we should not get panicked, and what we should do and what we should avoid doing. So Vishwajit Da will be guiding us about all of it. Over to you, Vishwajit Da.
Thank you, Dipanjan. I'll be sharing the screen just now. Just wait. Okay. Can you see the screen, Dipanjan? Hello?
Not yet, Dada.
Huh?
Not yet,
না
Da.
না পাচ্ছি না আসেনি এখনো
আমি তো স্লাইড শো তো করলাম তো দাঁড়া
do it once more
is not coming.
no
Oh god.
Shubham, I would request if you have the presentation, if you can share it.
You have to share screen.
Just a minute.
একবার এসেছিল দাদা, একবার জাস্ট এসেছিল একটা ওই ওয়েভের ছবি মধ্যখানে স্ক্রিনটা।
হ্যাঁ, এক মিনিট দাঁড়া।
তুই share
আমি হ্যাঁ, it will come.
শেয়ার স্ক্রিন করে স্ক্রিন 1 সিলেক্ট করুন।
আসছে
হ্যাঁ না?
এসে
হ্যাঁ,
গেছে
কারেক্ট।
Okay. Okay, it must have come now.
Yes, Dada, we can see it.
Okay, thank you very much, and good evening to you all. I'll try to keep my presentation very short and crisp. Is basically what to do at home for patients suffering from COVID-19. Now, the first thing is that in this pandemic, if you have COVID-19 like symptoms, which are fever, sore throat, cough, breathing difficulties, headache, body ache, loss of taste.
Can I intervene? I'm
Yeah.
not. Is this the screen you have shared? Zoom screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, my PowerPoint screen.
No, it is not coming in my. I know.
Huh?
It is not coming. I think.
Shubham, can you?
You have shared your Chrome.
You have not. Yeah, it is not coming.
So
Just a minute. ये कैसे हो सकता है?
এটাকে হাটিয়ে এতে চলে যাও না, তোমার ফাইলে গিয়ে তারপর সিলেক্ট করো।
stop presenting and then again present. It will
Yeah,
ask
yeah,
you to
yeah.
share your desktop or an application specifically. In that you can choose PPT.
You see, I am sharing the screen. Okay. A share screen किया. Where is it? Is it not there?
Check the select the whole desktop.
Before
Yes.
sharing screen, you open your presentation.
Yes.
Then you share.
Okay. Sharing कहाँ से? Just a minute. ओ बाबा, ये क्या?
दादा, आप अपना पहले पीपीटी खोल लीजिए।
खोल लिया तो?
हाँ,
उसके बाद आप वापस जूम पे आइए
Okay.
और अब जो है वापस शेयर स्क्रीन कीजिए।
हाँ किया, ये तो खोल गया तो।
हाँ, तो अब आपके पास वो ऑप्शन आएगा, वो पीपीटी वाला दिखाएगा स्क्रीन पे, वो आप क्लिक कर दीजिए।
उसको क्लिक करो?
हाँ, उस पर डबल क्लिक कर दीजिए।
कर दिया।
अब आ जाएगा।
It has come.
It has come now.
I will just scroll through the screen. That will be enough, I think. No?
তুমি এবার স্লাইড ভিউতে চলে যাও, ফুল
You
স্ক্রিনে
can
চলে
click
যাও,
on the slides. Yeah.
ফুল
the next
স্ক্রিনে
one.
চলে যাও।
This one, no?
The right.
No, next one.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah. That one.
F5 भी प्रेस कर दीजिए। हाँ,
Yeah.
वो हाँ उसको क्लिक कर दीजिए। राइट। हाँ,
Yes.
यही तो किया था पहले भी।
It's perfect.
किया
now.
था।
बस परफेक्टली। अब बस
Okay.
डाउन एरो करके नेक्स्ट स्लाइड।
Okay. So The first thing one has to remember during these pandemic times is that if anybody is having fever of whatever nature, sore throat, cough, breathing difficulties, headaches, and body aches, it has to be taken as COVID unless proved otherwise. But nothing to worry. One should not get worried with the term COVID-19. That is the main problem which people are having these days. And therefore, the patient should be first clinically assigned. That means a medical practitioner should assign whether this person is suffering from a mild asymptomatic disease, a moderate, or a severe. This cannot be done by layman. So there will be, after assigning, the second point will be one has to think that if the patient is in the mild asymptomatic group, do the person have a requisite facility for home isolation? This is very important because these days many people might not be having adequate area for home isolation. We have to also look whether the patient is elderly or not, and with comorbid conditions, which has to be evaluated by the doctor itself before giving rise to advice for home isolation. Patient with immunocompromised status are actually not recommended for home isolation. Now, once you have been told that you are having COVID-19 infection, the first thing you should do is to isolate yourself and take adequate rest. It not only physical rest, mental rest also. If you go on seeing your electronic media, your TV and channel, lot of things will be bombarding your head, and it will give rise to more problems than what the disease actually causes. The room in which you isolate yourself should be well ventilated. I am personally against air conditioning system, particularly when the vent is closed, because the same air is being circulated within the room. In fact, in my laboratory, although they have switched on the AC during the summertime, I tell them not to switch it on in my room, and I keep my doors open. The well ventilation is very important. And as Subhrangshu has already told, that you have to maintain the COVID appropriate behavior, of which wearing mask is the most important thing. You wash your hands, you stay at a distance, but you have to wear a mask. There is no other alternative. It is also important, particularly at this time of the year, to keep yourself hydrated. Please drink a lot of water, fluids, because if you are staying inside an AC room, you will get dehydrated, you will not know. If you are having fever, you can get dehydrated. So keep yourself hydrated by drinking a lot of water. It is important that at this point in time, you should have an oximeter at home. It is a very useful thing, and to check the SpO2 level, and it will also give the pulse rate. But I want to give you a caution about it. The first thing is, don't get obsessed with it. I have seen some patients over here who are walking with the pulse oximeter in their hand. That means they are looking at it every 15 seconds, 20 seconds. It's no point. 4 to 6 times a day is more than important. To fix the oximeter, to take the reading, you must follow how the instrument works. Many a time, if the battery is not working properly, it will give you a wrong reading. As far as medicines is concerned, the most useful medicine to keep at hand is, of course, paracetamol, Crocin, Dolo, or whatever trade name you have. Keep it in hand because you can give it during fever. during your home isolation, it is important to be very vigilant, because you have to understand the virus is not killing us. It is the reaction of the virus, the inflammation, immune inflammation, which is occurring inside our body, which is actually creating all the trouble. So we have to be very, very vigilant and see certain things which, if it occurs, we should immediately consult the medical practitioner. The first important thing is the SpO2 level. If it is more than 92, 93%, you should not worry actually too much. But to lie on your stomach as tolerated to improve your lung oxygenation will help you. The recent protocols also says that you can keep with you inhale budesonide, that is the inhaler, which comes with the trade name of Budarcord, which sometimes improves the breathing and other respiratory problems. I just wanted to show you about this proning position, how to take. You require at least 5 pillows, one below the head, one below the tummy, and the other below the legs. And it is if the patient is finding difficulty in the breathing and the SpO2 is falling gradually, apart from monitoring the vital parameters and to miss out the oxygenation, you start proning. It will give a better oxygenation of the lung, particularly the basal part, and you will see that the SpO2 level will rise. This is just a picture how to do the proning. It is not that you always lie on the bed with your head down on the prone position. You have to actually turn on the right side, then on the left side. Every 15 to 30 minutes, you can turn on one side, then on the other side. And as the picture shows you, you can do it. It is a very helpful procedure. It is some of the cautions I have mentioned that it should be avoided during after meals. And you have to be keep track on if you have any injuries and other things, you should not do it. So to cut it short, you see, you have to always maintain COVID appropriate behavior at all times. I will suggest all of you to continue with your breathing exercises like pranayam. It is very good. I have done it for the last 1 year. Since the COVID started, I have absolutely no problem. As far as steam inhalation and warm saline gargle is concerned, scientifically, I do not know how much it helps, but it does give a soothing feeling. So one can continue with it. There is no harm in it. Have a lot of nutritious food and plenty of fluids to keep yourself hydrated. You must eat food, whether you get test or not. It is very important. And what you do not want to do is, please do not panic. If you start panicking, everything will go haywire. Avoid listening and reading and viewing nonsense stuff in the net as well as in the TV, which will destroy your mental health. And please, people are running for remdesivir. Many of the people do not know when remdesivir should be given. And please do not allow these drugs to be given at home. In fact, steroids are being given very routinely now, but I will personally tell you that before starting steroids, please consult your doctor and take the appropriate dose. Please do not take these medicines without any medical supervision. Thank you.
Sadhu.
Thank you, Vishwajit. That was very crisp and clear, very short and to the point. I would request the speakers to please stay back, and now we'll be taking up the questions one by one. So meanwhile, as I'm taking up the questions, you can please keep posting your questions in the chat box. So I'll first take up the questions on the chat box, and then I'll be going to the questions which have been mailed previously. So we have for the panel discussion, we have the speakers Bishwajit Da, Shubhranshu Da, and as well as our senior medical professionals like Kaushik Da. Then we have many other medical fraternity also, so including our infectious disease specialist, Dr. Swapnil Gautam Da. I hope he has joined. We have senior professor of pediatrics from Lady Hardinge Medical College, and as well as senior faculty from US, Dr. Kaushik Da, as for our esteemed panel discussion. So I'll be taking up the questions in the chat box first. The first question is from Binoda. Can a fully vaccinated person without getting COVID-19 donate plasma? So I'll be taking up that question. So yes, a fully vaccinated person without getting COVID-19 can also donate plasma. There are different cutoffs given by different kind of blood banks. What should be the antibody titer for a vaccinated person to donate plasma? I'm not going into the technical details, but in general, a person after 4 weeks of vaccination, if the antibody titers are good enough, can definitely donate plasma. For blood donation, again, this question is not asked for, but again, that is a very commonly asked question. So after either first dose of COVID vaccine or for after second dose of COVID-19 vaccine, after 2 weeks, a person can safely donate blood. So previously the cutoff was 4 weeks, but now the guidelines have lowered the cutoff to 2 weeks. So yes, after 2 weeks, the person can donate blood. For donating plasma, the cutoff is even now 4 weeks. So yes,
My wife is in USA.
Next question is from Abhinav Da. Can a person who has taken vaccine consume alcohol after 6 to 12 hours? So
he should be Vidyapeeth Maharaj should be called and should be. कौन है भाई अभिनव दा कौन है भाई अभिनव कौन है वो?
I think we should call
alcohol. My goodness.
I think we should call up Shakti Maharaj for this.
Yes, you should. Shakti Maharaj is there in Vrindavan.
So I strongly request to refrain from doing that. But I mean, so honestly, addressing the question from scientific point of view, so with the Sputnik vaccine, definitely alcohol was shown to be impairing with the immunogenic response to Sputnik vaccine. We do not have any scientific data for Covishield or Covaxin as far as I know, but I will strongly request to refrain from such misadventure, and I mean, if possible, to abstain at least for a week from taking alcohol. So with this, I move to the next question from Abhijit Shaduda. 2-deoxy-2-DG drug by DRDO, when to use? I'd request any of the other members. So
no idea.
Yeah, can I take this?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Right. So this is basically 2-deoxy-DG. Only today I came to know about this drug. This drug is basically what is going into phase 2 trial. That means it will be used on the COVID patients right now. And whatever I could gather, it actually what it does is actually reduce so-called it enters the virus and takes away their source of energy. So what I can understand, it acts on the viral replication phase. Right. So most likelihood it will be used in the first week of the disease. Right. So we are not too sure about the side effect as well, because it has not been studied in that detail. So only time will tell how much it is going to be effective, number one, and what are the any side effects we have to take care of. That much information I have with you. Thank you.
Can I chime in on a similar note?
Sure.
So no, completely agreed. My preliminary reading is exactly on the same ground. So deoxyglucose, remember fluorodeoxyglucose that we're using for our PET scanning on the oncology side. It's an absolute comparable metabolite and interferes with viral replication. And it probably, if proved efficacious, might be a replacement for remdesivir. It does not prevent, it does not cure. It, in the phase 1 trial, has been shown to reduce the duration of illness. So very much along the lines of remdesivir. So it might be our homegrown remdesivir if phase 3 efficacy and safety trials prove it to be.
Right. So
May I ask a question, please?
yes, Dada, please go ahead.
Yeah, to the panel of doctors, how are you finding the efficacy of the 2 vaccines that are provided in India?
Right. So I'm okay with taking that. So actually, ICMR has released the data. So post either Covishield or Covaxin, the incidence of infection is quite low. So it is about 0.003%, 0.004%, like that. And it is comparable with both Covishield as well as Covaxin. So yes, infections can occur after both the first and second doses, but it is extremely low. I mean, you can imagine 0.003% or 0.004% to the tune of like that. More importantly, so rather than infection, more importantly, severe infection, hospitalization, and deaths, so almost negligible. So and especially like so death is almost negligible. I mean, so there are reports but of patients dying even after 2 vaccines, but I mean, so they are just restricted to reports. So I mean, so very like isolated or a handful of cases. So both the vaccines are quite efficacious in preventing severe disease. Maybe not that efficacious as comparable to Pfizer and Moderna to prevent infection, but to prevent severe disease, both the vaccines are definitely quite effective.
Dipanjan, can I come in?
Yes, Dada, please.
On this forum, I actually don't want to, discredit the government data, but in our hospital, we have received Covaxin. In many hospitals, they have received Covishield. Many of the doctors, even having 2 doses of vaccine, Manishankar, only after 2 weeks actually were protected against the infection, right? So many of the doctors, almost 30-35 doctors with full doses, we have the infection. As rightly told by Dipanjan, if you're looking at the efficacy, whether you are getting infection or not, probably in layman's term, yes, you can get infected, number one. But what has come across, none of our colleagues in Delhi, at least, they have got severe infection that is requiring either non-invasive ventilation or ICU admission, or even death for that matter. 1 or 2, in fact, has been reported even in all over India. So that way, it's a very good vaccine, both the vaccine, because at least I am protected against the severe form of this illness. Thank you.
True.
Absolutely.
And just to provide some more sense of confidence to our Praktini community, there was a recent paper that came out from Rajiv Gupta's lab in Cambridge and another follow-on publication from IISc Bangalore that looked at viral neutralizing antibodies after these vaccines, and the viral neutralizing efficacy is present even for the Indian double mutant, for the UK strain that is circulating in India. I do not have any data on the South India Telangana strain, but for the Indian double mutant and the UK strain in India, both the Covishield and the Covaxin generated antibodies are effective. Viral neutralizing efficacy is reduced, but it's not obliterated. So vaccine still is our best chance surviving this pandemic.
I think just to add on to the whatever Kaushik was telling, so Anthony Fauci he actually was quoted saying that the Covaxin neutralizes about 617 variants of the COVID-19 virus. For Covishield also, as Dada was mentioning, there is good lab data that it does neutralize even the double mutant. So, and from the very practical perspective, in the first wave, almost daily we were seeing in our own hospital, which is a non-COVID hospital, at least 3 or 4 of our colleagues getting admitted with COVID. With this second wave, we are fortunately not seeing that, and probably the only reason is being because most of the health workers are vaccinated well beyond beyond the second dose. So this I would move on to the next question.
Since we are on vaccine, I have a quick question on that.
Right, please.
So can lactating mothers take the vaccine which are available in India?
Yeah, so I leave either Subhrangshuda or Shrikanta Basudha to take it.
Yeah. It was initially, since the vaccine was not tested on lactating and mother, so vaccine was not indicated. Now that the data has come, it can be used. Even you'll be surprised, the Obstetric Association of India, they have approved this vaccine on case-to-case basis. But I'm not too sure if any vaccine can be approved nationally, countrywide, without the permission of the DCGA. once DCGA means once gives the permission, it is a new drug. So once DCGA permits, I'm sure this is safely, it can be used.
So if I have a wife who is lactating, should I go for her
No,
vaccination?
you cannot go that way because you have to, I mean, the person has to take permission. I'm not sure whether it can be given in the community-wide basis without the proper permission. So I'm little bit, because we raised a question in other forum also, it was told like, unless DCGA permits, you cannot get any new drug. But yes, in one-to-one, whether signing the consent form you can do, I'm not too sure about that.
So, Ritvik, just to add on, so as Dada was saying, the studies have not been done specifically in lactating or pregnant ladies, but the Pfizer, so there is published data in the net. So if you just search for vaccine efficacy in lactating and pregnant women, you will get scientific papers published in peer-reviewed journals. So yes, the vaccine has been tried on pregnant and lactating women. It has been shown to generate good immune response as well as pregnant as well as lactating women. So my hunch is that it will do more good than harm. Officially, probably it is not yet approved, but I believe that you can go ahead and it is likely to benefit your wife. Shubhranshu,
may I just,
yeah,
may I interject? So Dipanjan, you're absolutely correct. With the Pfizer and the Moderna constructs, which is just contains the spike protein and is an RNA-based vaccine, I don't foresee any issues. But with a vaccine like Covishield or with a vaccine like Sputnik, Sputnik has a double carrier inactivated adenoviral carrier. Similarly, Covishield has an inactivated virus. That in a pregnant lactating mother, I don't know if there is data. So we have to be careful in extrapolating the Pfizer data onto Covishield. I don't have any concerns with Covaxin because it's a whole virus inactivated preparation. So I don't foresee any issues. But with live adenoviral vectors in Sputnik and in Covishield, I do harbor concerns in this particular patient population.
Kaushik, you know, the Indian Obstetric Association has approved both the vaccine in principle as per their latest paper and all. Yeah. And
I see. Okay, good to know. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Individually, we can take it or not. That will depend on the approval of the government or on the.
Yeah,
that is one thing.
I think
we have not approved as yet. Yes, sir.
I think as far as the non-medical persons are concerned, they need not go into the details of what is happening, what is mRNA, what is this, what type of vaccine, living, dying, spike, etc., etc. They should follow the government guidelines only. And as doctors, we need to discuss all this in our forums, not in open forums. So I think for the non-medicals, only advice go by the Government of India directions, nothing else.
Pravinda, it has been very assuring to know that from a layman point of view, that the vaccines are working.
Yes, what Dipanjan said earlier, both the vaccines are working. In fact, no vaccine till invented today, be it mumps, be it rabies, be it anything, no vaccine works 100%. All vaccines work 70, 80, 90%. 100% efficacy, no vaccine till discovered. So in this Covaxin and Covishield, they have got efficacy of more than 75 to 80%. And in all vaccines, be it a TAVC, be it a cholera vaccine, you have some side effects, reactions. And in this vaccine also, you will have some reactions. But this vaccine will not ensure that you will not be reinfected or you will not be infected by COVID. But one thing is sure, that your severity of the disease will be less and less chance of going into ventilation and die. As he has said, 0.03% is the mortality. Till now, at least 30 to 40 crore population has been vaccinated till date, and hardly death is less than few thousand. So in India also, you can go for any vaccine as advised by Government of India, and you have to be sure that you have to take precaution, and the immunity starts after 2 to 3 weeks of second dose.
My only concern, sir, for the seniors, at least encourage your younger population to take vaccine. In our hospitals, in most of the colleges, the residents were very hesitant. There's a lot of vaccine hesitancy. So even I believe in younger
Main
age
issue is the doctors.
Yeah,
We, the doctors, have been confusing
We have
people.
to encourage them.
We are confusing people. We know many things about molecular biology and all these things, RNA, DNA, everything, RT-PCR, and we are confusing. Every day new papers are coming, be it in a layman's journal or in a professional journals. And our job is to encourage juniors and everybody, follow the Government of India guidelines. The people over there in the ICMR and the Ministry of Health are not fools. They have also got experts and scientists behind their all decisions.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it is very much protective. There is the only protection, the foolproof protection we have against the severe disease. So go for it. There is no, we cannot take it. Please, over.
Okay. Yeah, let's continue with the question answer.
Yeah, please. So the next question is, some doctors suggesting normal COVID medicines like Cavista, Doxy, etc. for precaution. Is it okay? So I'd like to address that quickly. So yeah, so no medicines are justified for precaution. No medicines prevent COVID. So please don't take medicines just for preventing COVID. If you are having mild COVID, so then obviously there is certain justification of these medications like ivermectin, doxycycline, all these things, but definitely not for prevention.
Dipanjan, is there any data to suggest ivermectin and other medications for mild COVID?
So, Dada, that's a Pandora's box question.
I want to stir the discussion amongst the panel because, and this is again, please forgive me, this is the perception that I carry from thousands of miles away as I talk with patients during my teleconsultations. I think probably 20 to 30% of mortality and complications that I'm seeing in India is because the people with mild COVID, 85% of them would recover without progressing to anything. And in their panic to go out to doctors, to get CT scans, they're getting steroids, they're getting all these medications, standing in the pharmacy in long queue, and they're exposing themselves and getting disease. So that's why the point that Vishwajit made, don't panic, very important. But the panic is leading to all this, which is then being fueled by us by trying to treat mild COVID patients where we know that nothing really works.
Right.
It's just paracetamol, good food, and rest.
Right. So
I fully agree with you, Kaushik.
So principally, I too agree with you, Kaushik, completely. But it is like, different guidelines keep coming every day. Different states have different guidelines. So I can quote you the AIMS guideline, which has a role for ivermectin in mild COVID. So this is from the latest All India Institute of Medical Science New Delhi guideline. There is role of ivermectin in mild COVID. Now debating on it So like there are 100 of publications on role of ivermectin in COVID. Probably 50 will be showing its role in mild to moderate COVID. Probably another 50 will be refuting it. And there are again other state guidelines which has no role for ivermectin in mild COVID. So I leave it upon the prescribing physician and and whether you are a believer or non-believer. So I mean,
fair enough.
I leave that question open. I leave that question open, and
I think only paracetamol can be self-medicated. No other medicine, either doxycycline or ivermectin or steroid, should not be self-medicated. Layman's, non-medical persons should take only paracetamol by yourself and don't advise anybody else to take.
Absolutely, and completely agree with you, Dada. And so most importantly, the classification of mild, moderate and severe COVID is again should not be done by self, but has to be under medical supervision. So I completely agree with you on that. And definitely paracetamol is the only medication probably which can be self-medicated.
For children, even for mild disease, ivermectin is not recommended. So I and Sudhanshu will stand by. Children full of ivermectin, we should not be only paracetamol, and paracetamol.
Absolutely.
No doxycycline either.
No, nothing. Right. Except paracetamol.
Dipanjan.
Yes, Vishwadev, please come in.
Having taking these medicines apart, keeping apart, I think if somebody can, one of you can give some, tell something about oxygenators, oxygen concentrators. It is a very big discussion in India now. Lot of oxygen concentrators are coming from abroad. this is possibly one of the instruments which can be used at home. People think that keeping an oxygen cylinder at home will suffice. Actually, it is not so easy to control the pressure and the flow rate from an oxygen cylinder. It is much more easier in an oxygen concentrator. So if anybody of you can please just highlight a few points for particularly the layman about oxygen concentrators.
Yeah, Dada, could we just take this part in the last first?
Okay, then fine.
But the question, only 4 or 5 questions left. And
I'll just go seriously. So next few comments are about Subhranshu Das very nice presentation. So yes, Subhranshu, the presentation was very nice, and
thank you so much.
And so again, the next thing is about ivermectin being used as prophylaxis, completely to be discouraged. So vaccination, whether vaccinated people can have ivermectin, really not needed and never to be used by prophylaxis. Is there any medicine to be given to a 4-year-old kid as purpose of immunity booster? Srikantoda, can you please take it?
No. There is no role of any immunity booster. If the patient is growing well, it is assumed that from the normal diet he is getting all the immunity. As it is, there are no particular immunity booster. I would rather refrain from it, right? So
I
unless
agree.
there is particular deficiency, then we will go for it. Otherwise, no.
Yeah.
Right.
As far as immunity boosting is concerned, immunity does not come in 7 days or 15 days or 1 month. It comes over the years. So a person of our stature, our Vidyapit students, they are from the well-off families, and no question of immunity boosters. Only thing happens, it is a sick patient, a convalescent patient who might need vitamin C, zinc, etc., etc. Otherwise, I don't think there is any role of having immunity boosters. Otherwise, we are just promoting the Ayurvedic and Ayush products, who are taking market by sending the wrong messages to the community. So the final word is no role of any immunity booster if or in a normal health. If you have been maintaining a normal health for last 5 years, you don't require zinc or magnesium or something like that. Only thing you take normal proper diet, good nutritious diet. You know what is good nutritious diet. Nobody of our community is immunocompromised. A cancer patient who is under chemotherapy, a patient who has undergone transplantation, immunocompromised, this patient might require some immunity boosting drugs. Otherwise, a healthy individual, healthy was doing normal 3 days back, doesn't require any product to boost his immunity.
And one more way to boost your immunity, talk to your friends, communicate, enjoy small moments, laugh very often. That also boosts your immunity.
Yes,
so
yes.
That is one way of doing that. Yeah. I mean,
one question we missed, I think, that is the question from Binod Da. Can a fully vaccinated person without getting COVID donate plasma?
Yeah, already taken. Yes, can donate. Can donate after 4 weeks. There are different cutoff of antibodies according to different labs. So next question, what are
Dipanjan, I think you have already made it clear. Probably he is not talking about convalescent plasma. I think I'm a little bit confused. Why would a person will unnecessarily donate plasma unless he is actually donating for convalescent plasma? So vaccinated person may not be having that much of antibody level to donate for the use of COVID patients, but per se for plasma and blood, he can donate, what we have already alluded to.
Right. So what are the post-COVID complications which can develop? Can a person have prolonged chest infection even after 14 plus days from the first symptoms? Yes, there are certain patients who can have prolonged chest complications. So just a brief about it. So because like patients with moderate to severe COVID, they are given steroids. So because of steroids, their immunity power comes down. They can develop what we call as opportunistic infections, for example, fungal infections, mucormycosis. And many times there is something what we call as post-COVID sequelae, where fibrosis sets in the lungs. So the elastic capacity of the lungs decreases, and therefore these patients land up in the ICU for long period of times because their lungs, the lung capacity really comes down and the oxygenation comes down. They need prolonged chest physiotherapy. Yes, Dada.
Can I ask one question?
Please, Dada.
বলছি যে my wife is out of station. She has taken one vaccine, co-vaccine, 2 months ago. So on 5th May, already date over. So shall she take another 2 vaccine there, or after coming from USA after 1 month, she will take another 2. The doctor says that she will have to take another 2. One vaccinated already done. She has gone in USA, but not sure she's not coming now because of COVID-19. So after 1 month she will come back. Whether she will take vaccine, 2 vaccine in USA, or coming back in Kolkata, she will take 2 vaccine.
So when did she take the first vaccine, and what was it?
5th March.
And that was Covaxin or Pfizer vaccine?
Covaxin.
Right. So generally the Covaxin, the gap recommended is 2 months, which you correctly say has already passed now. And when is she coming back?
5th June.
Yeah, so 3 months gap. So I would still recommend her to probably go ahead with Covaxin only. So I mean, so gap, instead of 2 months gap, it will be 3 months gap for her, which I think will be acceptable to me. To be on the safer side, I will check her antibody titer about 2 weeks from the second dose.
Okay. No, so after coming back, she will take in Kolkata.
Yes.
Okay. No,
as far as my knowledge goes, 2 doses has to be taken. The gap may be 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, even 12 weeks, but
Right.
not more than 2 doses to be taken. But in case if you are in a doubt, you can have an antibody titer, and then, but don't go for other than Covaxin. Anything
Absolutely.
else.
So don't mix and match. If 1 dose of Covaxin, go for second dose of Covaxin only. A gap of 12 weeks is acceptable.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So next question. It is almost a week that I have recovered from COVID. After how much gap should I go for vaccination? Very pertinent question.
Yes.
So about 6 to 8 weeks is what we recommend generally for symptomatic COVID infections, to be the gap to be kept between COVID infection and vaccination. Often patients are also getting COVID infection after first dose of vaccination. Even in that case, we recommend to postpone the second dose to 6 to 8 weeks after recovery.
Exactly.
Then even after second dose, my residents have got COVID. So
Yes.
yeah. So yeah, agree with it.
So now that I have recovered, can I donate plasma if necessary? I am diabetic and on medication for last 3 years. Yes. So if you are diabetic and on medication, so if you are on oral medications, you can still donate plasma. If you are on insulin, generally the blood banks don't recommend blood donation. So if you are diabetic, if you are recovered from COVID, yes, you can go ahead and donate plasma if you are on oral medicines. Ghatak Das question has already been taken. A lady doctor of New Delhi told to avoid glucose if anyone gets COVID-19. What do you say about that? Also, that is strongly I will discourage. So firstly, I did come across this viral video yesterday. So to be honest, she's a transplant coordinator. I am not very aware about her qualification, but I don't think she's a MBBS qualified professional, leave alone any higher qualifications. So what I got to know is that she's a transplant coordinator and she has been promoting avoid any glucose and take protein diet. So I personally strongly discourage falling for such kind of traps. Adults will get vaccinated sooner or later. What steps to be taken for young kids? So I think Shubhranshu has already covered this. Shubhranshu, would you like to add on?
Yeah, this is in the pipeline. Some are in phase 2 trials, some are in phase 3 trials. In fact, this Pfizer has already announced in Canada. So by 12 to 15 years of age, they'll be getting vaccinated. Thereafter, we'll see when these vaccines arrive in India. So maybe this age will be lowered down to 12, then maybe by 1 to 5 years of age, and then maybe up from 6 months onwards. So I don't see, maybe 1 year or more it's going to take, in my opinion.
And for Covaxin, they have got permission to go for trial in children in India. I think that was the January.
Yeah.
There's one information. Covaxin is going for trial 12 year and above. So probably you are absolutely right. Many months or years probably we'll have children, more children coming under the getting that.
Yeah, correct.
So hopefully by the end of this year is the earliest timeline we are looking for it. Yeah. But I mean, so probably our kids will have to abstain from schools for quite some time even now.
Yeah.
Next question, parents awaiting second dose has been almost 2 months, but vaccines are short. Yes, so they can take Covishield after 3 months. Definitely they can take Covishield after 3 months if for some reason, for logistical thing, they're not getting appointment. After how much time a COVID recovered patient can go for second dose already addressed. So at least a gap of 6 to 8 weeks is recommended after a patient is recovering from COVID. Why are some patients getting mild infection while others are getting severely infected? Is it due to viral load only or other factors as well? $1 million question. No one knows the correct answer. So, Korda, can you please address this? Someone has asked why.
Yeah, sir. Yeah, it is applicable to everything. Say influenza, diarrhea, amibiasis. It depends upon your own body immunity status. And viral load, yeah, sometimes viral load can affect. So you are in contaminated, you are in contact with a COVID patient, overtly COVID patient for 30 minutes. You are walking and staying with him, then your viral load is high. But otherwise, if you get infected, if your immunity is good, and immunity will not in 15 days or 20 days, it is for 10-15 years. If it is good, probably your infection will be less, virulence will be less. That's all.
Yeah, so just to add on, probably yeah, please, Vishal, go ahead.
Dipanjan, this thing has been addressed, and some papers are now coming out from the Western world that some, particularly, they have compared with Asian population and American population. They have seen, this is of course a technical thing I'm telling, there is a lot of role of HLA to play in it. So this is a genetically endowed thing which we have or somebody doesn't have. You really can't do anything about it. And it is probably applicable to many infections and so on and so forth.
Absolutely, so, I can't agree more. So while so whatever Praveer was telling is probably applicable to for most of the population. Just at the beginning of the discussion, we are having like I have got 80-year-old patients of blood cancer who with hardly any WBC count, and they are just getting asymptomatic COVID infection. So on the other end, 45-year-old or 35-year-old young patients are dying. So completely agree. We really cannot predict who will be getting mild, moderate, or severe infection, and that is all the more reason all of us should get vaccinated. All of us should be using masks appropriately. So going to the next question, is a second RT-PCR recommended after 2 weeks of contracting the disease? Absolutely no. So once you are once you are asymptomatic, the ICMR has given that there is absolutely no role for a second RT-PCR. Please don't overburden the labs. They are already, the reports are getting delayed. You don't need a negative report for anything. I mean, so once you're asymptomatic for 7 to 10 days, you can go out and be part of the mainstream.
Yeah. Basically this rule was earlier, it was there, say 6 months, 8 months back. Because of number of cases coming up and laboratory are overburdened, the government has decided not to go for test. But for certain legal procedures, say you have to appear in the court, you have to travel, and then only you have to do this test after 10 to 15 days to prove that you are a COVID negative. Otherwise, they will not allow you to fly. You can't go out.
That is different.
You can't appear before a court. So it is government doesn't recommend doing these things.
Those are special situations.
Yeah. Absolutely. So those are unique situations. For example, even for elective surgeries, patients get it. But routinely, it is not recommended.
One more thing, Dipanjan, one more thing. Basically, you rightly said previously, as per the government direction, it was 10 days of your isolation plus 7 days of quarantine. Recently, it has been brought down to 10 days.
10 days.
Of which the 3 days should be without symptom. That one has to be clear. For a layman, after 1 week, more or less, you are clear of symptom. Number two, RT-PCR can still be positive. You may not be harboring the virus. Even the remnant of the virus can give you false RT-PCR positivity. That might create a doubt in your mind. So there's no point in doing RT-PCR, confusing the whole thing.
Right. So I'll be addressing few more questions quite quickly because we have 38 more messages to read and 8 more minutes to go. So is a second, so yeah, this is there a probability of third wave in June, July, given the present situation in India? Probably yes, probably no. We really don't have an answer, but we might get a third wave. Going by the opinion for most of the experts, the timing we don't yet know. Probably Maharashtra will be the first one to go for the third wave as well. can a healthcare worker who has recently recovered from COVID-19 join his or her duty, become a carrier for his or her family members? So who has recently so healthcare worker who has recently recovered from COVID-19. So healthcare worker can carry COVID-19 virus. Definitely yes. So just follow the universal precautions if possible. Maintain social distancing even in the family. Are GI tract issues also post-COVID symptoms like recovery from COVID and having stomach issues and fatigue? Yes, COVID can cause GI tract problems as well. So there was a joke going on. So COVID can cause anything except pregnancy. So I completely agree with that. So GI tract issues can also be a part and parcel of presenting symptom of COVID. Father got 2 vaccines, second on March 5. He is getting SpO2 levels of 87 to 92 from last 3 days. He's 70 years old with heart issues. Should we continue with oxygen connected or let it normalize on room air? So if the oxygen level has dropped down to 87 to 92 in this elderly gentleman who is 70 years old, you have not mentioned whether he has recently turned COVID positive or not, but I would strongly recommend consulting a doctor, because the oxygen saturation has definitely dropped down. You need to continue, give him oxygen, and go ahead and get tested for COVID and the parameters to which determine its severity. Why we are not using methylene blue in treating lungs? There are articles on it, some pulmonologists using methylene blue. So methylene blue not routinely recommended. So the only practical situation problem where we used is in methemoglobinemia. I have not come across any studies recommending methylene blue. Maybe the others can address this. Srikanto Da or Probir Da, Kaushik Da, any role of methylene blue in COVID-19? I am not very sure about it.
No, not that I'm aware of. We have used in severe cases of post-cardiopulmonary bypass vasoplegia and sepsis, but I think that's where probably the analogy is being drawn. But I'm not aware of methylene blue having been used or any case reports specifically for COVID-19 severe ARDS.
Yeah. So for the sake of time,
this is absolutely a medical question, so this should not be discussed here.
Okay, fair enough.
So for the sake of time, I'm not going into details, but again, routinely not recommended. I saw a news couple of days back that fabric masks are no good for protecting only virus. They can only protect from dust and smoke. Is it correct? So because most of us have, regarding which masks to be used, if you have access to N95 mask, please go ahead with it. So studies have shown that N95 masks are the best protection. So rather than cloth mask or surgical mask, if you can use N95 mask, please go ahead with it. And I think the panel will strongly endorse this.
No, but Dipanjan, I would like to interrupt. I wanted actually this the type of mask should be chosen according to the situation. If you are in if you are doing a non-invasive procedure, then I don't think there N95 is required every time. Okay, and at house or maybe in the market area, and N95 is not needed as per me. I think a surgical mask is also not needed.
Agreed. But even if you go by the Dr. Fauci's recommendation in CDC, now he is saying probably a cloth mask. Above that, there will be surgical mask. That is probably the best protection we have. Because now that COVID is rising too much. Now the situation has changed from the first wave. So we as a medical personnel, we advise now we are going for double mask. For general layman, they should wear a good quality mask whenever they are going out. That is the advice.
Whenever they are going out.
Yeah. So to add on to the Srikanto very briefly. So surgical mask that Fauci uses or that is available in US is very different from that which is available in India, and which is so the quality of mask there is heaven and hell difference. So what I would still recommend is so again, this is personal opinion, one might vary. So if you have access to good quality N95 mask and N95 mask, there is really no shortage in the second wave as there was in first wave. So where N95 mask was a scarcity. So I would personally recommend N95 mask for probably everybody apart from the children at least.
Even I agree with you. But the problem is even N95, there's a lot of quality difference.
Absolutely. So use the best quality, in short, use the best quality mask available to you.
Exactly. I'll go for it.
And any mask is better than no mask.
Absolutely. So,
Dipanjan,
yes, Dada.
me and my son last month suffered from corona, March 13 to March 13. Okay, now we are okay. I have taken one vaccination, and another 2 weeks I will have to wait. But my son is suffering from asthma. Shall he take vaccine now?
So the same rule. 6 weeks once you have recovered, you can take. Whether you're asthmatic or not asthmatic really does not make any difference.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
So Dipanjan, all questions done?
Yeah. So all questions in the chat box done.
We can go back to the oxygen concentrator question as
Yeah.
Vishwajita has asked.
So maybe a few couple of minutes on that. Vishwajita, can you please address that?
I don't know. I have used oxygen concentrator at home for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. I think it is a very useful, handy instrument which anybody can operate, and if possible, can be kept at home instead of an oxygen cylinder. Basically, people have some wrong notion what it is actually. Actually, what it is doing, it is sucking in the normal air, which is predominantly nitrogen and about 21% oxygen, passing through a filter having zeolite, which absorbs the nitrogen and pushes the oxygen, about 95% oxygen with other elements back to the patient's lungs. So the most important thing which I came across with many patients, sir, which concentrator to use, which one to buy. I think a 5 liter per minute is more than sufficient for a home setting. You get larger concentrators, of course, but those are not feasible. But one thing I want to point out when people are using these oxygen cylinders and concentrators, because the oxygen, which is the air which is passing through the humidifier, that is water, there's a chamber through which the water needs to be, or the container needs to be cleaned very often, because it is a source of secondary infection, particularly fungal infection, who are on long-term these things. And but it's a very sad story now that people are hoarding. These are not very costly instruments, to be very frank. People are hoarding. That will always go on in our country. But if one can keep it for later on purpose, because it is during COVID it is being used, but it is being used for a long time for other purpose, basically to supply oxygen.
Yes, and to add to that, I have read one article about it, like oxygen concentrators to be used not inside the AC and all. It has to be used in a well ventilated environment, because again be recycling the same air and everything.
Yeah, now the reason is because if water accumulates over the filter, the efficiency of the concentrator will go down. So I think, Shubham, there were some questions which you had given in the Excel sheet also.
Yes. Those were there. Let me take those out also for a moment.
One of the question was, is it necessary to take antibiotics if one is having fever during this time? So
I think, we have already addressed. I'm just checking on that. I think we have already addressed most of these questions.
Yes.
So one question is, should we wait for the results of COVID or start giving medicine if the patient start exhibiting symptoms? Again, a very, very practical question. So for like paracetamol, definitely you can start giving, but I would strongly recommend to get the COVID test done. So it is basically to get integrated with the mainstream. So since once you know you are COVID positive, you can closely monitor your symptoms, take a formal consultation, get few tests done to see whether you're fitting into mild, moderate, or severe. So apart from that, as we discussed, there are really no medicines to prevent or treat mild COVID, just symptomatic treatment with paracetamol.
I think Dipanjan, you just answered this question also. When many people ask, "मैं RT-PCR कब करूं? Fever हो गया." When to do the RT-PCR?
Yes, brother, please take that. I think you already addressed that in your this thing. In your talk. So Shubhranshu also addressed it in his talk.
Okay.
So
fair enough.
Shubhranshu, please, you can take it up.
Am I audible now?
Yes,
as soon as the person becomes symptomatic, that is fever, cough, cold, or sore throat, something, the person can go for a testing.
Yes.
Or if a person in the family is positive, but this person is asymptomatic, so they may wait for 5 to 7 days before getting tested. So the purpose of getting tested is whether they are positive or not. In case they are positive, they should be isolated at home. And
So I think rest all questions in the Excel sheet mostly we have answered, including the one on oxygen concentrator. For everybody's benefit, I have posted. So I think I posted a link.
One final question I have. These days we have seeing a lot of news about the virus being airborne, and then people living in apartment. If you have cases up on the upper floors, right? Some toilet etiquettes you should follow, and how true are those? Because that might relate to a lot of us who are living in apartments where I'm in Bangalore, which has highest number of cases. The 2 apartments above me have COVID cases. Should I use the toilet? How should I use the toilet?
Right, Ritik. So so again, a very practical question. So just I'd like to give a scientific background to this. So people have, so in UK there are studies where they have looked into the viral load into the sewer drains, and they have seen that there is significant viral load in the sewer drains, and they suggest that the viral load in the sewage can be a good marker of the viral load in the community. So in UK, when it was seeing very high load in the community, the viral load in the sewage was quite high. Now with the load in the community coming down, the viral load in the sewage is coming down. So yes, COVID virus does get excreted in the feces. So again, I believe your question is stemming from a WhatsApp forward, which tells that to cover the flush commode while flushing and such kind of etiquette. So I haven't come across any scientific study being done on those aspects, but personally speaking, I would recommend you to follow it. I mean, it really doesn't hurt you to close your commode and flush it. So how much it benefit, I cannot promise you, but I can assure you it is not going to harm you. So probably, follow it, because yes, there are scientific studies definitely documenting that COVID virus does get excreted in human feces.
Dipanjan,
yes, sir.
I have an oxygen meter. So how many seconds I have to wait? Because it is fluctuated. First it is coming 97, then 96, then 95.
So that's a very, very practical question. So once you put in the oxygen meter, the immediate reading that you get is often not appropriate, both for your pulse as well as oxygen. You wait for 30 seconds or at least say 1 minute before taking in the reading. So once you are stabilized, so then the reading that you take is more appropriate.
Okay.
And moreover, if it is more than 95, don't go for the next test within few hours. Don't worry if it is 96, 97, 98, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, absolutely.
If it is 95 plus or not, that is what is important.
And if it is low, I'll suggest please repeat it. Please check your oximeter. Many a time, lot of oximeters coming in the market. So before panicking, because many a time anxiety brings down your oxygen level. So don't get panic. If it is low, sustained low, please check the oximeter. Try once more time, 2 times, 3 times. If it is sustained low, then you start taking the advice of the doctor.
Go and buy a battery.
Any electronic gadget, don't believe the first reading. Go for second and third reading, waiting for 2 to 3 minutes.
Exactly.
Be it blood pressure, be it weight, be it pulse oximeter, anything. Don't believe the single reading.
I have a question actually. Like Amitabh Ghosh, 86 batch. So how good is air purifier inside a room in this kind of COVID situation? And air purifier also comes with a button, like virus clean. It says that it cleans the virus in the room. So really it does, or air purifier? What is your suggestion on this?
Mostly a marketing gimmick, I think.
Open your windows and let the air come in.
Air purifier, is definitely
Dipanjan.
good, not only for COVID, for any disease. All multi-story buildings, you can have a air purifier. It doesn't matter whether you have it or not. If you have a proper ventilation, that is all right. For COVID, no use.
Let me give you a practical point on oximeter. I came in this article a few days back. But this is applicable for ladies. If you put a very thick nail polish, your oximeter reading will give you a false reading. It will not give you proper reading. Because this nail bed is important. What you are. So please, if your wives or घर में कोई भी है ले रहा है बोलता है मेरा it is 84 or something, first see whether nail polish is there or not. Nail polish.
Good point. That's
absolutely Lada, very practical point. So just to I mean, before we conclude, so just like I know we are debating on the like vaccination in the lactating women, so probably that question I'd like to take up again. So while the session was still going on, I consulted with ID specialist as well as a neonatologist who are not Vidyapit Praktani, but quite senior faculty in their forum. So FIGO has given an official statement advocating vaccination in pregnant and lactating women. For your reference, I posted the link in the group chat. So DCGI, I know, has still not officially recommended it, but my personal hunch again will be probably to go ahead with vaccination in lactating as well as pregnant women, because to me the benefits outweigh the risk at this point of time.
Yeah.
But Dipanjan, they may not be given. That is the thing. Suppose the community person who is manning the vaccination center is not allowed to get it there, even if you want to. That is the thing.
That is a different.
Permission is necessary.
Yes. I guess this lactating woman question was also with Hariram Da given in the Excel sheet. So I think he's not here, but we will convey this message to him also. His answer. And yeah, I mean, regarding this oxygen, this air purifier, we have been seeing it like from past 1 year since this COVID onset. Lots of product have like their branding and labeling around virus. Like now, Lifebuoy, even Lifebuoy also like are marketing their products. Like now we are killing 99.9% of virus. I mean, it's just a marketing thing, but yeah, as Biswajit has like rightly said, natural environment, natural air is much better. And all
that virus is of 3 idiots.
Yeah.
Well ventilated room.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think it's 10:40 already. So with yes, Dada, please.
Just one last.
Yes, Dada, please.
Pravida, please. To all our members. One appeal to our members. We have a RKMB medical WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
I would request the non-medical persons not to answer any queries posted by anybody. Let the physicians who knows the subject answer. I find many non-medicals are answering and at the end writing, this is my opinion. You are not authorized to give any opinion on this.
Yes, sir, you are right.
Please desist yourself from giving opinions. You can give opinions verbally to anybody, but not in a WhatsApp group when a formal question has been asked, and let the medical person concerned, who is the authority, who can answer on it.
Rightly said,
that is my
rightly said, sir. Yes.
Absolutely.
At max, if there is any help needed, yes, anyone can provide the help or any verified contact leads and all. But if any medical related queries are there, please refrain yourself from answering anything or proposing any kind of self-medication or any other WhatsApp forwards to like that.
Rahul, can you post the link to that WhatsApp group?
Yeah, sure.
Others to join.
Dipanjan,
circulate the medical groups joining link once again in all the about other groups.
Yeah, Dipanjan, for the Covishield vaccination, especially in the lactating woman, I just want to bring one point of consideration. Totally agree that if there is no other alternative, no vaccination is far worse than getting vaccinated with whatever you have. Right. But if, given the Vidyapit Praktani is coming from a relatively well-to-do background, and most of us can and will have options for young, pregnant, lactating women below the age of 30, UK is not administering AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine because of the increased incidence of central venous sinus thrombosis. Okay, so if a family has an option to go for Covaxin, in younger women, it would be preferable. And again, it's something that they should discuss with their doctors. But you know, and it's something that we should remember.
Completely endorse your views, Dada. So if like for young lactating women or any patient who has got a past history of thrombosis, so
Yes.
I am a hematologist, I get this query day in and day out, patients with past history of thrombosis, whether they can go ahead with vaccine. I always give them this option: if Covaxin is possible, go for Covaxin.
Go for it. Yep. Very
if
true.
Covaxin is not possible, go for either one available. Do not avoid the vaccination.
Yeah, totally agree.
So I think with that, we'd like to conclude. So since it's already 15 minutes late and we'd like to conclude on time, we started on time too. So I'd like to express my sincere gratitude and thanks to all the Praktani members for taking out their time and making this such a fruitful and interactive discussion. My special thanks to Shubhranshu and Biswajit Da for taking out time out of their busy schedules, preparing the presentation and slides. And it was really amazing presentation from both of you. Hats off to you. My again sincere thanks to Srikanto Da, Kaushik Da, Probir Da for again making this discussion fruitful. And I'm sure that all of us benefited from this. And I'm sure the technical committee team and the communications team is doing a fantastic job. They have so they will put up a recording of this also in our channel to be shared widely and to disseminate the knowledge among the public. So with that,
Dipanjan, very sorry.
Please, Dada.
Dipanjan, very sorry. I got in late because of an emergency. Dr. Vinayak from Siliguri.
Yes, Dr. Vinayak. Yes, please.
I just need to ask one question. So even after the patient is negative, is she in chance of carrier? And do neonates have the chance to be a carrier if they had fever during this period, and suppose somebody at home is positive and during the same period they had fever, do they have the chance of being a carrier?
So Srikanto, would you like to address that?
Yeah, normally once you have a COVID, it takes almost the anecdotal reference up to 6 weeks. Most of them are cleared. Now it has been brought down to 4 weeks at the most. Newborn, yes, when we are having the COVID, you are carrying that. But again, the same thing, after 4 to 6 weeks, we are no longer a carrier, no longer transmitting. For all practical purposes, 7 days, 10 days without symptoms, you are no longer in a position to infect any other. That is what my understanding.
Isolation should be only up to 7 to 10 days.
10 days of
exactly.
3 days should
10,
be asymptomatic.
10
That's
days.
it. That's it.
Okay.
Dipanjan, just 2-3 words before you can. Before just to summarize, because I was supposed to do that. Shubhranshu has very rightly told about the pediatric COVID. Again, in general, 80 to 85% will remain at home, will require no treatment except for paracetamol. For prevention, MSD, mask, sanitization, D for social distancing. These are the buzzwords, right? Third, those who have not vaccinated, get vaccinated at the earliest. And the most important thing I've been seeing, consult only one doctor, don't go for doctor shopping. You are asking 2-3 people, they were confusing the whole treatment. The only one drug that works during the COVID is a corticosteroid. Rest of the drug, remdesivir, tocilizumab, and for the plasma therapy, they've got very limited role. So don't go after that unless you create a panic. Panic will add more to your anxiety, right? And that's what I have to say for all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dada.
Thank you.
Dipanjan MSD to Mahendra Singh Dhoni ho gaya.
Thank you, Srikanto.
Yes, I have done that. Yeah, MSD Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Yes.
But before we conclude, so even that was a very well coordinated from Dipanjan also.
Yes,
so he
Dipanjan was
and he coordinated so well amongst all of us, and so he took a very lot. Means I think somebody posted that he was player of the match today. So
best padded prize mila usko.
Shubhranshu, there are silent people who have worked behind the scene. Ritesh didn't utter a single word. He was there from the beginning.
Yes.
Then there's
Ritesh, Prashant,
then Shubham, and all the team. Yeah, they have done a wonderful job.
This whole thing is actually Ritesh Das
nice
concept, and so he is the main key player behind this Praktani Adda thing.
Yes.
and
Yeah.
we can all see how beneficial it is to our whole community.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
Thank you so much.
absolutely.
Thank you,
All right.
everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Nice.
Stay safe. God
We
bless.
Have a
Take
nice
care.
weekend.
Thank you.
Enjoy
Thank you
whatever time
everyone.
you have.
Just one added remark. We have done
Yeah.
this vaccination session. We have done this session. If needed, we will come back again
Sure,
with
sure.
another kind of session. Let's see. Let's hope. Let's keep our fingers crossed. We'll win together. And yeah, let's hope that we don't need another session.
Yeah.
Once this everything
Yes.
settles down. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pankaj,
Thank you. Good night.
for
Thank you all.
coordinating.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Enjoy your
Bye-bye.
drinks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.